Hey there, Squirrel Army. How's it going? For today, we are making a counterpoint to people who say don't run mana dorks in casual because, hey, they'll die to wraths.
You can join the Squirrel Army by subscribing.
Right, so this is our official counter statement. To not running mana dogs. So when you're playing a creature deck, it's going to be really hard not to play mana dogs in casual metagames. Now, yes, there are some creatures that replace themselves more easily and whatnot, but they're usually more mana. And the only really good ones, in my opinion at least, are those ones that come in untapped, giving you that instant ability to get back some of that mana. Because again, most of them are 3 mana or equal up to 3 mana to actually get the effect, like Dawn Trader Elk or something like Diligent Farm Hand or cards like that. Effectively, the ability that they have to sacrifice to go find lands is adding up to 3. Steve is the only other one that doesn't, but the land comes in tapped, and I always find that when you're getting a tap land, you're losing a lot of your efficiency and ability to play ahead. So you need those lands mostly to come in untapped. Yes, you are spending amount of mana to get ahead in mana in a turn. Now, not always, but I wouldn't often use these. There are certain decks that I would use them for. I don't personally have any of those decks, but if you're in a landfall style deck, then obviously there's a bit of a difference. Plus, again, if you're in a graveyard deck, again, there's a bit of a difference because, again, you can get it back from the graveyard, etc. So there are different decks that do want different things, but for the most part, I don't think running mana dorks is actually a bad thing, even if you do lose them to a ball wipe. Yes, you're essentially losing your ramp, which isn't good in a sense, but you've just got to hope in a lot of ways that you've got, enough mana throughout the game to continue playing said game. There's no point in saying, oh, these aren't good because they die to removal. Well, nearly everything dies to removal. And yes, as I said, land ramp is the best ramp. But again, most decks don't have access to that. Only green and white kind of do. So, and white needs somebody playing green effectively to actually land ramp ahead, or not even ahead, just get parity mostly. So again, you're looking at all the other colors needing artifacts, and there's lots of artifact removal. Yes, there is a lot less artifact and enchantment removal run, but people do run them. So the argument to say, perhaps yes, there are more removal in creature wraths used in the format, but still it's not that much, especially in casual, because again, most of everyone else is running a lot of creatures. So for the most part, yeah, it's not going to matter. They're only going to have a couple of wraths. So, you know, and again, you can and should often enough use recursion because recursion's really good. So again, the idea that you shouldn't run something because removal for it exists isn't really a good thing to say because it's said there's removal for everything. Yes, again, more creature removal, and they do get caught up in that whole thing. But if you're a creature deck, you want to run creatures. So it's going to be tough to find other things. There are some other things that ramp you. Um, Explosive vegetation style. Um, so when you play it, you can put a land into play from your hand. Not terrible, but not 100% worth it, I don't think. And there's the ones that you tap to put a land into play, or you've got your Azusa style effects to play an additional land, stuff like that. That's not that bad either. But again, I'd rather play the things that are cheapest. There are a couple of cheaper um, pseudo sort of mana dorks. But again, for the most part, I wouldn't worry about it because by the time a wrath happens, which is probably going to be turn 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, before someone's looking like they're going to win, which is usually around that time, maybe 7, 8, 9, 10, really, that or, just before then. So again, I wouldn't worry about it because, again, by that time, hopefully, you've drawn enough other mana sources that it really won't affect you that much, i.e., lands mostly. But again, it really won't affect you that much, and you'll have some card advantage of some sort to get back in the game. Because again, if you're running your Beast Whisperers and your Guardian projects and whatnot, that kind of thing, well, just having that 1 minute cantrip effectively that can be a mana source later is really good and doesn't really hurt you. It's fine early, and if it dies midway through the game, so what? Again, it doesn't matter because you've got your use out of it. You needed it for those few turns when you were setting up, and now you just getting more value out of it until you can't use it or until it dies or whatever. Well, you got use out of it. So how useful for you was it? It was very useful, and now it's gone. So what? It doesn't matter because now I'm on turn 6, 7, 8, whatever it is, and I have 6, 7, 8 mana. So it's not really going to affect you that much by the time it comes around. And yes, someone could Swords to Plowshares is your thing, but someone could as easily, you know, blow up your Soul Ring or whatever you've got, with Nature's Claim or with, Assassin's Trophy or Beseiju. So again, there's no guarantees in saying that mana rocks are better. If you're in a deck that cares about mana rocks or just don't have any other better ramp, then sure, of course, that's the thing that you do. But again, if you're an enchantment deck, you want to run enchantments. But most decks are creature decks, so they want to run creatures. So, I don't know. There are some spell decks that do want to run the spells more, and even then, I feel like, again, you've got to find the ones that come in an untapped or that are very cheap at least, because it's one of those things that you find that you just don't get that much out of those things that tap lands. Yeah, they are okay, but it would just be a lot better if you just had it untapped. And again, yes, mana dorks, you can't use them for a turn, but most of them are pretty cheap. I wouldn't use many of the more expensive ones for the most part unless they do a whole lot. Like Catilda's really good. Um, like Armored Scrap Gorge's pretty decent because, again, the ability to exile stuff from people's graveyards really useful. There's a couple other ones, but there is a couple of decks again that go outside that rule, like my Inga and Essica deck that runs a lot more mana dorks, but most of those mana dorks produce 3 mana or more, which is what my commander really wants to do. It really wants creatures to generate 3 or more mana so that you can draw cards. Yes, the early mana dorks, like again, Elvish Arbor Elf and things like that, are in the deck or whatever. But again, they're there to help get the commander out. Yes, they're not as good perhaps as those other mana dorks when you've got your commander to a degree, but still they're alright because, again, they now are basically Birds of Paradise, and even Birds of Paradise is in there. And again, you can put your swords and whatnot on them if you're running them. So again, they have other uses. You can get in for that janky 1 damage or whatever sometimes, which is sometimes all you need. Again, if you've got your Toskies, you've got your Oran Frostfang in that deck. It's very useful to punch in with those creatures sometimes because, again, they got vigilance. So there are different circumstances, and if it doesn't really matter at that point, you're just like, well, if they draw me cards or help my other stuff get through, then I don't really care because they'll at least replace themselves. So it's worth it at that point. But that is my official statement there, you guys. You guys can always let me know what you guys think. Do you think I'm some super wrong? You can let me know. Write thoughts down there in the comments below. And hope you've enjoyed. Hope you'll join me again in the next one.